The Galactic Concordat had made their first mistake long before Admiral Kira Yamamoto ever stepped onto the bridge of the TNS Defiant. They'd assumed that humanity would never discover their interference. Their second mistake was believing that humans would respond like any other species, with fear, submission, or at least predictable aggression. They were wrong on both counts. Admiral Yamamoto stood at the command station, her weathered features illuminated by the tactical display. The bridge crew worked in focused silence as the massive dreadnought moved through the darkness of space, leading a fleet of Earth's finest ships. Decades of careful preparation had led to this moment. "Signal from command confirmed, Admiral," announced Lieutenant Raj Patel from his communication station. "The intelligence is verified. We found their primary monitoring station." Yamamoto allowed herself a small smile. After centuries of subtle sabotage, mysterious accidents destroying breakthrough technologies, unexplained deaths of key scientists, manufactured conflicts keeping humanity divided, they'd finally traced it all back to its source. The Concordat's secret installation in the Proxima Centauri system, hidden beneath layers of stealth technology that they'd thought impenetrable. "Status of the fleet?" she asked, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had earned her this command. "All ships in position," responded Commander James Okonjo, her executive officer. "Strike teams ready." The Concordat still shows no sign they've detected us. Of course they hadn't. The aliens had never imagined that humans would crack their stealth tech, let alone improve upon it. They'd never considered that the very pressures they'd placed on humanity had forced them to evolve faster, think smarter, work harder. "Ladies and gentlemen," Yamamoto addressed her crew, "for 300 years, the Galactic Concordat has worked to keep humanity contained. They saw our potential, and it terrified them. They labeled Earth a death world, and used it as an excuse to keep us isolated, all while working to ensure we'd never reach the stars." She paused, looking at each crew member in turn. "Today, we show them exactly why they were right to fear us, but wrong to provoke us." Battle stations. The fleet dropped their stealth fields in perfect synchronization. 20 ships, each representing the pinnacle of human military engineering, suddenly appeared around the Concordat's supposedly secret installation. The alien facility's sensors lit up like a Christmas tree as alarms undoubtedly blared through their corridors. "Multiple ships launching from the station," reported Lieutenant Wei from Tactical. "They're charging weapons." "Let them," Yamamoto said calmly. "Execute primary strike plan. Show them what a death world species can do." The human fleet moved with devastating precision. The aliens had expected crude tactics, brute force attacks. Instead, they faced an intricate dance of synchronized warfare that left them reeling. Ships twisted through space in maneuvers that should have torn them apart, crews operating at G-forces that would have killed any other species. The Defiant led the charge, its advanced point defense systems swatting incoming fire aside like insects. Yamamoto had trained her crew relentlessly for this moment, drilling them until they could operate in perfect harmony even under extreme conditions. "Their shields are adapting to our weapon frequencies," Wei announced. "As expected," Yamamoto nodded. "Implement penetration sequence Delta." The human fleet's weapons changed patterns faster than the alien shields could compensate, using algorithms developed by studying 3 centuries of Concordat interference. Each shot found its mark with surgical precision. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the Concordat's monitoring station hung dead in space, its weapons silent, its communications severed. The few surviving alien ships had retreated, carrying with them the first testimony of humanity unchained. "Boarding teams report all primary targets secured," Okonjo reported. "Data cores intact. We've got everything. Their entire network of operatives, all their sabotage operations, everything they've done to hold us back. Broadcast on all frequencies," Yamamoto ordered. "Let every species in the Concordat hear this." She stood straighter, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of suppressed human potential. This is Admiral Kira Yamamoto of the Terran naval ship Defiant. For 300 years, you have worked to keep humanity weak. You thought you could contain us, control us. Today, you learn the cost of that mistake. We are coming. We are no longer bound by your restrictions. And you will learn why evolution on a death world created something far more dangerous than you ever imagined. She paused, letting the silence stretch. This is your only warning. Stand down your operatives. End your interference, or find out exactly how much damage a species can do when you force them to become stronger just to survive. The message ended, broadcasting across countless alien worlds. In the following hours, the Concordat would discover that similar strikes had occurred simultaneously across dozens of systems, each targeting their covert operations against Earth. As the fleet secured their objectives, Yamamoto studied the tactical display showing the devastation they'd wrought. This was only the beginning. The Concordat had spent centuries ensuring humanity would become tougher, more resourceful, more determined than any other species in the galaxy. Now they would face the consequences of their success. Orders, Admiral, Okonjo asked. Set course for the next target, she replied. It's time to show the galaxy exactly what a Death World species can do when they take off the gloves. The Defiance engines flared to life, leading humanity's fleet deeper into Concordat space. Behind them, the wreckage of the monitoring station served as a monument to humanity's first strike, and a warning of what was to come. The war for humanity's future had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. When the emergency session of the Concordat High Council convened, Supreme Commander Vexlar couldn't hide his trembling secondary appendages. The massive chambers, usually a symbol of the Concordat's absolute authority, now felt suffocating as reports of human victories flooded in from across controlled space. Impossible, muttered Counselor Zikra, her crystalline form flickering with distress patterns. They were contained, monitored. How did they develop such capabilities? The answer came not from within the chamber, but from the massive holographic display suddenly materializing above them. The council members recoiled as the image resolved into a human face. Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the TNS Hyperion. You pushed us, Rodriguez stated simply, his scared face bearing witness to countless battles. Every obstacle you placed in our path forced us to innovate. Every sabotaged project taught us to hide our true capabilities. You didn't contain us. You forged us. The council chamber's legendary defenses had been bypassed as easily as tissue paper. It was a demonstration. Rodriguez knew, just like the simultaneous broadcast playing in every major Concordat facility across the galaxy. Aboard the Hyperion, Rodriguez nodded to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Hannah Patel. Show them what else they missed. Across known space, hidden human fleets emerged from supposedly empty sectors. Ships that shouldn't exist, using technologies the Concordat had thought safely suppressed, appeared in perfect formation. Each vessel represented decades of secret development, tested and refined in the darkness beyond Earth's solar system. Your monitoring wasn't as thorough as you thought, Rodriguez continued, addressing not just the council, but every Concordat citizen watching. While you watched our official channels, our visible progress, we were building, learning, preparing. The Hyperion's crew operated with practiced precision as more ships joined their formation. Rodriguez had selected them personally, each member representing humanity's incredible adaptability. His XO, Commander Jackson Chen, had grown up in the crushing pressures of Europa's deep-sea colonies. His chief engineer, Dr. Isabel Onikachi, had revolutionized quantum mechanics while working as a simple maintenance technician. Multiple Concordat battle groups approaching, Captain, reported Lieutenant Patel. They're attempting to coordinate a response. Rodriguez smiled. Let them come. Implement Operation Awakening. Across the galaxy, human ships executed maneuvers that defied conventional physics. The Concordat's mighty fleets found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move, using their own tactical doctrines against them with devastating effectiveness. In the Sirius sector, the Titan's Prometheus unleashed weapons reverse-engineered from centuries of Concordat interference. Along the Perseus arm, ghost fleets appeared and disappeared, striking with surgical precision before vanishing into supposedly impossible spatial dimensions. Your greatest mistake, Rodriguez addressed the increasingly panicked council, wasn't trying to contain us. It was assuming we would play by your rules once we broke free. The Hyperion sensors detected multiple incoming warships, the pride of the Concordat fleet. They were beautiful vessels, Rodriguez had to admit, perfectly designed, optimized through millennia of peaceful expansion and limited conflicts. But they weren't built by Deathworlders. All ships, execute combat pattern Theta, Rodriguez commanded. Show them what happens when you force a species to evolve under constant pressure. The human fleet moved like a single organism, implementing strategies developed by minds shaped by Earth's unforgiving environment. Where Concordat ships fought with textbook precision, human vessels responded with controlled chaos, using maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart. They're trying to adapt to our attack patterns, Shen reported from his station. Good, Rodriguez replied. Lieutenant Patel, signal all ships to begin Phase 2. The human fleet's formation suddenly shifted, implementing combat algorithms that changed faster than the Concordat's predictive systems could process. Each ship moved with seemingly suicidal disregard for conventional tactics, closing to ranges that made their superior Concordat counterparts hesitate. In the council chamber, Supreme Commander Vexlar watched in horror as the impossible unfolded. Their ships, they're exceeding safety tolerances by factors of 10. The crews should be dead. Safety tolerances. Rodriguez's voice carried a hint of amusement. Another concept you fail to understand about us. We don't build to tolerate. We build to dominate. The battle reached its crescendo as human ships executed their final approach. The Concordat fleet, despite its superior numbers and technology, found itself fragmented and outmaneuvered by an enemy that seemed to thrive on the impossible. You spent centuries ensuring we would never reach the stars. Rodriguez addressed the council one final time. Instead, you created an enemy perfectly adapted to space warfare. Every failure you engineered taught us resilience. Every setback showed us new paths forward. The Hyperion's weapons found their marks with devastating precision. Around them, the pride of the Concordat fleet began to fall silent. This is humanity unchained, Rodriguez declared. You can surrender your monitoring stations, withdraw your operatives, and prepare for a new era of galactic politics. Or you can continue to resist and watch as everything you built falls to the very force you created. As the dust settled, the Concordat Council faced a transformed galaxy. Their perfect system of control and monitoring lay in ruins, undone by the very species they had tried so hard to contain. The human fleet regrouped, their ships bearing scars that would have crippled any other vessels. But they were ready for more. Always ready for more. Because that's what evolution on a death world taught you. There was always another challenge to overcome, another limit to break, another impossible victory to achieve. And humanity was just getting started. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Meridian station was designed to impress. Soaring crystalline arches, gravity-defying sculptures, and atmospheric controls tailored to each species' comfort. But none of these wonders held the attention of the assembled alien diplomats. Instead, all eyes were fixed on the human delegation, led by Ambassador Zara Patel. In the 3 months since Operation Awakening, the galaxy had changed irrevocably. The Concordat's iron grip had shattered, replaced by a new reality that no one had been prepared for, least of all the species who had relied on the Concordat's protection. The terms are non-negotiable, Zara stated, her voice carrying the same steel that had earned her this position. She stood perfectly still despite the station's fluctuating gravity field. A small demonstration of humanity's adaptability that wasn't lost on the observers. Behind her, Commander Nikolai Volkov of Special Operations monitored the room's security feeds. His cybernetic enhancements, Technology the Concordat had tried desperately to suppress allowed him to process multiple threat scenarios simultaneously. You cannot expect us to simply accept human expansion into former Concordat space, protested Ambassador Till of the Velderan Confederation, his bioluminescent patterns flashing with agitation. We expect nothing, Zara replied coolly. We're informing you of what will happen. The buffer zones the Concordat established around Earth are now under human control. Any attempt to interfere will be met with immediate response. The assembled diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Reports from the front lines had painted a terrifying picture of human military capabilities. Ships operating beyond theoretical limits. Soldiers fighting in environments that should have been instantly lethal. Strategies that seemed to defy logic yet proved devastatingly effective. Perhaps, offered High Speaker Jixera of the Ceteri Assembly, we could discuss technological exchange. Surely humanity would benefit from access to our advanced. No, Zara cut her off. You misunderstand. We're not here to trade for technology we've already surpassed. We're here to establish new boundaries. Commander Volkov stepped forward, activating a holographic display. The image showed various alien worlds, each marked with environmental data. To the assembled diplomats' shock, they recognized their own homeworlds. What you consider extreme environments, Volkov explained, his voice carrying the gravelly edge of someone who'd spent too much time in hard vacuum. We call training grounds. Your death worlds are our vacation spots. The display shifted, showing human soldiers operating in environments that made several diplomats recoil. Troops moving through radiation zones that should have been instantly fatal. Engineers working in pressure differentials that should have turned them to paste. Scientists conducting experiments in temperature extremes that defied survival. The Concordat's greatest failure, Zora continued, was assuming that isolation would weaken us. Instead, it forced us to master our environment, to adapt, to overcome limitations you accept as absolute. A sudden commotion at the chamber's entrance drew attention. A group of Concordat military officers burst in, led by Fleet Commander Vexnar, brother of the Supreme Commander who had fallen during Operation Awakening. This farce ends now, Vexnar declared. The Concordat will not be dictated to by Deathworlders foe. His words cut off as Volkov moved. The commander's augmented reflexes carried him across the room faster than most species could track. Before the Concordat officers could react, their weapons had been neutralized and Vexnar found himself immobilized by a hold that somehow bypassed his species' natural defenses. An excellent demonstration, Zara noted calmly. Commander Volkov is barely augmented by our current standards. A basic model, you might say. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If this was basic, what were humanity's elite troops capable of? We spent centuries watching you, Zara addressed the stunned audience. Learning your weaknesses, understanding your limitations, not because we wanted to, but because you forced us to in order to survive your interference. She gestured to Volkov, who released Vexnar with mechanical precision. The Concordat officer stumbled away, his proud bearing shattered. Humanity doesn't want war, Zora continued. We don't seek conquest. What we want is acknowledgement, understanding, and most importantly, we want guarantees that no other species will face the same attempted suppression we endured. The holographic display shifted again, showing the new proposed boundaries of human space. But mixed among the military installations and defense platforms were something unexpected: research stations, medical facilities, cultural exchange centers. We're offering you a choice, Zara explained. Continue viewing us as Deathworlders to be feared and contained, or accept us as partners who have mastered challenges you never dreamed of facing. We can help your species adapt, grow stronger, reach further. Or we can remain what your fears have made us, the nightmare that breaks free of its chains. The diplomatic chamber fell into contemplative silence. The assembled representatives faced a fundamental shift in their understanding of the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just another spacefaring species to be managed or controlled. They were something entirely new, forged in the crucible of Earth's harsh environment and tempered by centuries of forced adaptation. The question isn't whether humanity deserves a place among the stars, Zara concluded. We've already claimed that. The question is whether you'll accept the new reality or force us to demonstrate even more of what a Death World species can achieve when challenged. As the diplomats began their hurried discussions, Volkov's enhanced senses detected something that made him smile. Fear, yes, but also fascination, wonder, and in some cases, hope. The galaxy was changing. Species that had grown comfortable in their limitations were being forced to confront new possibilities. And humanity, the unwanted children of a death world, would lead the way, whether the galaxy was ready or not. Deep within the Void Nebula, where radiation storms shredded conventional shields and spatial anomalies devoured unwary ships, the TNS Shadow Strike moved like a ghost through the impossible. Its specialized hull, designed to bend rather than resist the nebula's forces, carried humanity's most elite special operations team toward a target the Concordat had considered unreachable. Commander Jade Rivera watched her team prepare in the ship's deployment bay. Each operator represented the peak of human adaptation and enhancement. Lieutenant Darius Ward adjusted his neural interface, the quantum processors allowing him to process the nebula's chaotic patterns. Sergeant Olivia Barnes checked her morphic armor, the reactive material designed to adapt to any environment. Technical specialist Rahul Mehta made final adjustments to their breach pods, his augmented vision analyzing structural integrity down to the molecular level. "Target approaching," announced Captain Thao through the ship's comm. Concordat Black Site confirmed. "They're definitely not expecting company in this hellscape." Rivera smiled grimly. The facility ahead represented the Concordat's darkest secrets, a research station dedicated to developing weapons specifically designed to target human physiology. Its location in the Void Nebula had been considered the perfect defense. After all, no species could survive direct exposure to these conditions. No species except those evolved on a death world. "Remember," Rivera addressed her team, "we're not just here to destroy their research. We're here to show them why developing anti-human weapons is a monumentally bad idea." The Shadow Strike's stealth systems, derived from studying centuries of Concordat surveillance technology, kept them invisible as they approached. The massive research station hung in the nebula's heart, its reinforced shields barely holding against the cosmic maelstrom. "Breach positions," Rivera ordered. Her team moved with fluid precision, each operator perfectly synchronized through their neural links. "Execute on my mark." The breach was textbook perfection. While the station's defenders watched their external sensors, humans in advanced combat suits simply appeared inside their impregnable fortress. The first sign of infiltration came when entire security sections went dark. Rivera led the charge through the station's crystalline corridors, her augmented senses processing information faster than any natural being. She could hear the panicked communications of the station's crew, smell their fear pheromones, feel the vibrations of their futile defensive preparations through the deck plates. "Research labs located," Ward reported through their neural link. 3 levels down. Heavy security presence. Electromagnetic storms intensifying. Thao warned from the Shadow Strike. "You've got 20 minutes before even our systems can't compensate." Rivera's team moved like liquid shadow through the station. Where Concordat defenders expected traditional military tactics, they encountered something else entirely. Operators who treated the station's lethal defense systems as minor inconveniences. In the main security hub, a Concordat officer watched in horror as humans passed through supposedly lethal radiation fields without pause. "Impossible," he gasped. "The exposure levels are quite refreshing, actually," Barnes commented as she neutralized him with casual ease. "Reminds me of training grounds back home." The research labs themselves were a testament to the Concordat's fear. Weapon prototypes designed to target human cellular structure. Viruses engineered to overcome Earth-evolved immune systems. Devices meant to exploit supposed weaknesses in human psychology. "Download everything," Rivera ordered as her team secured the facility. Let's show our scientists what they tried to use against us. Meta interfaced directly with the lab's systems, his enhanced consciousness navigating their security protocols like they were children's puzzles. They really don't understand us at all, he mused. These weapons, they're designed to exploit limitations we evolved past centuries ago. A sudden shift in the station's gravity announced the arrival of Concordat reinforcements, ships emerging from FTL, trying to trap the human operators in their own raid. Commander, Thao's voice carried a hint of amusement. We've got company. 3 heavy cruisers. They're attempting to establish a containment field. Rivera checked the mission timer. 15 minutes until the nebulous storms reached critical levels. The Concordat ships would be forced to retreat long before then, their crews unable to endure the conditions. They were counting on that same limitation applying to the humans. They were about to learn otherwise. Team, Rivera broadcast, show them what Deathworlders do best. What followed would be discussed in frightened whispers throughout Concordat space for generations. Human operators moved through lethal environments like they were taking a pleasant stroll. Where Concordat troops fell back from radiation spikes, Rivera's team advanced. Where defensive systems should have torn them apart, they adapted and overcame. All research data secured, Meta reported. Uploading to Shadow Strike now. Excellent. Rivera nodded. Now for the message. Their defensive retreat was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Rather than simply destroying the facility, they left evidence of everywhere they'd been. Concordat troops would find their strongest security measures casually disabled, their most lethal defenses bypassed with apparent ease. As the nebulous storms reached their peak, the Shadow Strike retrieved its operators without losing a single team member. The Concordat ships, already falling back from the increasing radiation, could only watch as the human vessel seemed to dissolve into the chaos of the Void Nebula. Hours later, when emergency teams finally reached the facility, they found a single message carved into the primary research terminal. Your weapons cannot harm what evolution has perfected. For your own safety, stop trying. The raid marked a turning point in the ongoing conflict. The Concordat's attempts to develop anti-human weapons ceased almost overnight. Their scientists, reviewing the casual way their strongest defenses had been overcome, realized a fundamental truth. You cannot defeat an enemy by exploiting weaknesses they've spent millennia evolving beyond. Aboard the Shadow Strike, Rivera watched her team recover from the mission. Despite operating in conditions that should have killed them many times over, they were already planning their next operation. Because that's what Deathworlders did. They didn't just survive the impossible, they made it look easy. And the galaxy was running out of impossible challenges to throw at them. The orbital platforms above Earth glittered like a crown of stars, each one representing a different alien delegation. 1 year after humanity's emergence as a galactic power, former enemies had become cautious allies, drawn by the same force that had once terrified them. Humanity's remarkable ability to overcome any challenge. From her office in the Terran Diplomatic Center, Grand Admiral Victoria Ito watched shuttles ferry representatives between the platforms. The wall of windows offered a perfect view of humanity's transformed homeworld, no longer isolated, but now the heart of a rapidly expanding sphere of influence. The Arcturian Collective has submitted their formal request for military advisors, reported Director Riza Hassan, his holographic form hovering beside her desk. That makes 17 species seeking human expertise in adaptation and survival techniques. Approved, Ito nodded. But make sure they understand our conditions. We'll teach them to survive, but not to conquer. The transformation of galactic society had been profound. Species that had relied on the Concordat's protection now sought to learn humanity's secrets of survival. Worlds once deemed uninhabitable were being colonized using human-derived technologies. The very concept of impossible was being rewritten. A priority alert flashed across Ito's neural interface. Status report, she commanded. Long-range sensors have detected something unusual, responded Fleet Commander Takeshi Wong from the defense platform Aegis, multiple signatures emerging from uncharted space. Configuration unknown. Definitely not Concordat. Ito's expression hardened. The remnants of the Concordat had warned of something like this, a threat they had been containing for millennia. A threat that, in their arrogance, they had deemed humanity too weak to face. All forces to alert status, she ordered. Activate the Prometheus Protocol. Across human space, ships and stations shifted to combat readiness with practiced ease. The new arrivals would find no easy conquest here. Earth had evolved beyond mere survival. It had become a fortress world, defended by a species that turned adversity into advantage. The unknown vessels emerged from FTL in a display of technological power meant to awe and intimidate. Their organic-mechanical hybrid ships dwarfed even humanity's largest vessels. Energy readings suggested weapons that could shatter planets. Interface initiated, announced Senior Technician Amara Okafor from the Quantum Communications Hub, translating their transmission now. The message that boomed through every communication channel was designed to inspire terror. We are the Harbinger Collective. For 1,000,000 years, we have cleansed the galaxy of weak species, preserving only the strong. Submit to evaluation or face extinction. A smile touched Ito's lips, the same smile that had preceded humanity's most stunning victories. Response prepared, she stated. All channels. Her voice carried across space, reaching not just the Harbinger fleet, but every species watching this first contact. We are humanity. We evolved on a world that tries to kill us daily. We survived attempts to contain us, suppress us, and destroy us. We do not submit to evaluation. The Harbinger ships began moving into attack formation, their weapons charging. But humanity was already moving. Ships appeared from seemingly empty space, implementing strategies that defied conventional physics. Space itself seemed to bend as humanity's most advanced technologies were finally unveiled. You claim to test species for strength, Ito continued, her voice steady as human forces executed maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart. We are what strength looks like when it's forged in the crucible of constant adaptation. The battle that followed would reshape galactic understanding of warfare. The Harbinger Collective, accustomed to overwhelming primitive species with their superior technology, found themselves facing an enemy that adapted faster than they could attack. Every tactic they employed was analyzed, countered, and improved upon within minutes. From nearby defense platforms, representatives of former Concordat species watched in awe as humanity demonstrated why evolution on a death world produced something unprecedented. Ships twisted through space in ways that ignored supposed physical limitations. Weapons thought unstoppable met defenses that turned their power back upon them. Send word to your masters, Ito broadcast as the Harbinger fleet began to fall back. Earth is not your testing ground. We are not your subjects to evaluate. We are the consequence of trying to contain something that evolves beyond all constraints. The retreat of the Harbinger ships marked more than just another victory. It represented the final transformation of humanity's place in the galaxy. No longer were they the isolated Deathworlders to be feared and contained. They had become something else. Teachers, protectors, guides to species seeking to break free of their own limitations. In the aftermath, as reconstruction began and new alliances were forged, Admiral Ito stood in her office once more. The view had changed. More ships, more stations, more signs of a galaxy learning to overcome its fears and limitations. The Harbinger Collective has requested diplomatic contact, Director Hassan reported. It seems they've never encountered a species that not only survived their test, but drove them back. They're curious. Ito nodded. Arrange the meeting. It's time they learned what we've been trying to teach the galaxy. True strength isn't about domination. It's about adaptation, evolution, growing beyond what you thought possible. As Earth's sunset painted the orbital platforms in shades of gold, humanity's influence continued to spread across the stars. They had emerged from their death world not as conquerors, but as living proof that the most hostile environments could produce the greatest potential for growth. The galaxy was changing, growing stronger, reaching further. And at its heart stood humanity, the species that had turned survival into an art form and limitation into opportunity. Because that's what Deathworlders do best. They don't just survive, they thrive.